Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us today for another episode of Clean Water Casting, brought to you by FloridaRightToCleanWater.org. We are the organization that is behind efforts to amend our state constitution, giving all Floridians a fundamental right to clean and healthy waters. I'm Joseph Benazia, Communications Director. These are podcasts in which we talk to experts about water quality issues and water-related issues in Florida. Today's guest is Sarah Flint. Sarah, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Sarah is Creation Care. She is co-chair of the Creation Care Task Team of the Florida Conference of the United Methodist Church. So, Sarah, again, thanks for being here. Co-chair of the Creation Care Task Team. Can you tell us, what exactly does creation care mean to Methodists? Just how important is it? And, from where in the faith does it come from?
I would love to tell you about that. Thank you, Joe, first of all, for having me here today, because this is one of my favorite subjects and an important one near and dear to my heart. And I wanted to begin by saying happy season of creation. I think there are a lot of people out there who don't realize we are in the middle of the season of creation, which is a celebration that began in 1989 in the Greek Orthodox Church. It's become an ecumenical movement now, though, embraced by many denominations beyond the Greek Orthodox. And it begins on September 1st, which is the beginning of the Greek Orthodox year and a day of prayer. And it goes all the way through September until October 4th, which is the feast day of St. Francis, who is very important in creation care. And I do need to just make one little quick statement, just saying that although I am a member and I serve as a volunteer in the Methodist Church, and I also am employed by an Episcopal Church in creation care, that I'm only offering my own opinions. I'm not speaking for any official entities. I need to make sure to keep myself out of trouble there.
Sure, we understand and appreciate that. That's fine.
Of course. And to answer your question, what is creation care? I get that question a lot. And it's funny because I'm so immersed in this world. I think, well, creation care is creation care. What creation care is the ministry that leans into our responsibility to protect and nurture and restore all of God's creation, which includes everything that God made, all of the natural world, all of the plants, all of the animals, and of course the people too. We are also creations of God. And often you'll hear this referred to as green ministry or environmental stewardship. Those are other terms that we use for this work. And it really leans into the idea that there is a great commandment to love God and love people. And this work is really an extension of that when you think about it, because of course we need to love what God created. God cares about what God created. And we really need to take care of our neighbors. And a really sad fact is that a lot of the issues of the climate crisis, the brunt of it is borne on the backs of people who've done the least to cause it. So really we need to do our job to take care of people all over the world.
So, this is something that is highly important to Methodists, not something on the back burner.
This is very true. And in fact, for years, we've had resolutions and things that are a part of our social principles that tell us our doctrine and how we are meant to be in the world. It's part of our book of discipline. And for many years, we've had a section called The Natural World with many points in it about how we should treat the natural world and the resources that God has provided in the natural world. And just recently, this past May, there was a general conference where they updated all of that language and they actually made this a stronger part of the social principles. And one of the things I'm really excited about is they are requiring all of the conferences in the Methodist Church. And we're divided, like, for example, I am in the Florida conference, but there are conferences all over the country. And every conference is now required to have somebody who's responsible for creation care within the conference. And Florida is actually ahead on this one. I don't think we can always say that about our state.
Mm.
But here in the Florida Conference for many years now, we've had a very active creation care task team, and we work hard. We're one of the more active ministries, I would say, within the Florida Conference. And we provide webinars every month. We support churches that are trying to start green ministries in their churches. And we do things like offering resolutions when we have our annual conference here in Florida. And one of the recent ones is a resolution for plastic and foam free FLUMC, which is the Florida Conference, the United Methodist Church. And we're really leaning into that. We're hoping to start a good, strong campaign to encourage our churches and for people at home too. A lot of the things we're trying to educate about are things that we hope we'll do on our church campuses and start that example, but then also inspire people to live differently at home and to tread more lightly on this earth. And I would have to be realistic and say that even though this is a really strong part of our doctrine and definitely very official from the United Methodist Church, it doesn't always come down to the level of the pews. I think a lot of our members don't always make that connection between what our doctrine says and what the Bible says as well to connect with how we live our lives. And I'm encouraged that I see more and more now that more churches are starting green teams. I'm seeing more seminaries offering programs in eco-theology and courses about creation care. And I think that will be very helpful because I think that there are a lot of pastors out there who are not really as informed as and educated and comfortable with these subjects. And these subjects, you have to be a little careful from the pulpit because, the American way is very oriented toward consumption. And it can be really tricky for a pastor to get up in the pulpit and talk about these things in a way that engages and inspires people and doesn't kind of push them away. I think we're called to this work, but at the same time, if you just repel people from it, you aren't going to get anywhere.
So you mentioned consumption. One of my favorite documents is Laudato Si, written by Pope Francis. Consumption is a big aspect of a lot of his comments. It doesn't end there. He talks about integral ecology, and your comments early on in our conversation about the connection between, the state of the environment and those folks who suffer the most, even if they committed the least damage, reminded me of that. Are you a fan of Laudato Si?
I'm a huge fan of Laudato Si. They've really done some wonderful work for years now. And I think the Catholics are very much leaders in creation care, and we can look to them. They have wonderful resources on their website. And, I really appreciate Pope Francis being so strong on this. And in addition to that original Laudato Si statement, about a year ago, he came out with Laudati Deum. I think I'm saying that right. I'm not very good in Latin, but it really causes us to think about how our actions impact so much of the natural world and the people living in it and sharing our resources. And, overconsumption is such a big part of that. And, I've heard statistics that tell us that I think it was 2050, there could be as many as 1 billion climate refugees. And when you think of that many people trying to move to other places in the world, we're going to have different attitudes about how we treat people who need to leave their place where they've always lived and have to move somewhere else. So it all is very intricate with so many of the issues that are such important subjects today. But going back to this idea about consumption, I had a training called Earthkeeper training that the Methodist Church does through the Global Ministries Office. And when I took this training, one of my very much admired people, her name is Reverend Jenny Phillips, was the teacher for the training. And she told us that she believes that what we call the original sin, when Adam and Eve took that apple in the garden and they ate it, she referred to it as the first sin of overconsumption. I've
Ah,
never heard of anyone else talk about it that way, but that was one of those really pivotal moments in my theological thinking. And when you start to frame all of the issues that we have, and you read about the characters in the Bible and all the issues that they have, and so much of it is about this entitlement to just take what we want when we want it and live the way we want, and not, just with blinders on, without considering impact of those decisions and actions. And I just really love that framework. And consumption, I think, is so central and pivotal to the issues that we're facing today.
so is the season of creation meant in part to be a consciousness raiser, to get people to, make the connection between what we're doing and how we're impacting the earth on a daily basis?
I wasn't the founder of it, so I can't get in the head of the person who started it. But for
Mm.
me, certainly it is that within the church context, we have two seasons when we can really try to influence our pastors to talk about this more. One is the season of creation that we're in right now, and the other is Earth Month, when we usually have some sort of Creation Sunday close to Earth Day. But I will say that season of creation is typically more fruitful for me because often Earth Month falls at the same season as Easter.
Ah,
So when you're up against, for obvious reasons,
hmm
the Easter celebration, creation care takes a backseat, understandably, of course.
hmm
So the season of creation, I'm very grateful for that opportunity to talk more about creation care in the fall. And and St. Francis was so impactful in how we think of creation. And, I have a whole series of events planned actually for St. Francis weekend that will make ecumenical. Everyone is invited, and we'll really try to get the word out in the community as much as we can, in the wider community beyond just our church, so that
Yeah,
people can come and have a good time celebrating creation with us.
terrific. So Sarah, you are one of our Right to Clean Water ambassadors. You personally are a staunch supporter of our proposed amendment, Right to Clean and Healthy Waters, and trying
Mhm.
to do our best to qualify it for the 2026 state ballot. Can you tell us why?
Absolutely. Of course, part of it is informed by my faith and my religious belief. I really do believe that we have such a responsibility to one another. Water is one of the most important fundamental needs. We need clean water, not just for humans, but for all of life, to sustain all of life. So certainly, our commandment to love God and love people, we have to be out there campaigning for access to clean water for all of creation. And it's not only my faith. I think people who are not religious also can easily see many pragmatic reasons
Definitely.
why we need access to clean water. It's important for our health, it's important for our economy in Florida, certainly. And there's just this inextricable web of life, this chain of life that we have to keep strong, because we are all connected to one another and to the natural world. And keeping that impact of negative things as minimal as we can is just such an important thing to do. And I think we have to do these things together in community. If there's one thing I've learned in this work, it's when you try to do things on your own and you lean into the darker side of these realities, it can be very depressing. And
Mm.
when you start to talk to people from that perspective, you put them off. Humans run away from pain. We don't want to talk about what's hard. We don't want to do what's difficult. But there is so much joy in taking care of creation and of being out there in it, being out on the water. What's more fun than a great day out on the water, right?
Hmm.
And when we can lean into that, I'm really a big believer in a God that wants what's best for all of us, and being able to enjoy the beauty of the earth is a really important part of who I think we all should be. I
Hmm.
can't speak for everybody. That's certainly who I think we all should be, though. People of faith who enjoy this creation and give thanks to God for it.
So you've mentioned more than once during our conversation about things being inextricably linked. You mentioned climate, water and climate are very much inextricably linked. In fact, our climate crisis basically is a water crisis, rising seas, floods, all that sort of stuff. Our amendment can be very helpful in terms of climate because wetlands have lots of mitigation benefits and stuff, and our amendment can help protect those wetlands that protect us. You are very instrumental in helping us have a Methodist minister as a speaker last year. I can't recall her name
Yes.
off the top of my head, but
Yes.
she was the one who mentioned, first time I had ever heard it, that the word water is mentioned 722 times in the Bible. That certainly accentuates its importance.
Yes, that was the Reverend Latricia Scriven, and
That is
I
it.
am a huge fan of hers. She is a wonderful, wonderful person, and she has an incredible testimony of the impact of growing up in Cancer Alley in Louisiana. And, I think so often there are things that are going on that we don't connect with the bigger picture. There's so many examples of that. And she really talks about, how the petroleum and other chemical processing industries have caused terrible health issues of the people in that part of our country. And, raising awareness of that is pivotal. But yes, water. Oh my gosh. I mean, water is life, right? I remember in 10th grade English, when we talked about symbolism in literature, I remember the teacher saying, water represents life. Anywhere you see water written, it represents life. So, of course, it's in the Bible hundreds of times, and I think something people sometimes miss in scripture when we drill down just to a chapter or a verse is this overarching theme of these three characters in the Bible that have a relationship, and the actions in each area have results in the others. There's God, of course, there are people, and there's the land. The land is like a character in scripture, and the impacts on the land of bad behaviors play out over and over, and then the blessings of the land come through, that when Moses taps the rock and the water flows, things like that, that just, it's so important not to miss that. The Bible starts in a garden and the Bible ends in a garden. And I don't think we should miss that. And Genesis 2, humans are created to tend the garden. That is the reason humans are created. And I think it's just so important not to miss those themes and the importance of those if you're a person of faith, to lean into that.
Lovely. It has been an absolute pleasure talking with you, Sarah, today about all this. Do you have any last remarks that you would like to share with our listeners about any of this?
I would just say, if you are a religious person, please, if you have any questions about this work, Joe knows how to reach me. I can put my information out there, and I love to help people in creation care work. And of course, if you're not a religious person, that's great too. And then you're recognizing the pragmatic reasons. And, we are all citizens of this planet, and this work of taking care of the planet as a whole and clean water specifically is just such important work. And I'm so grateful to you, Joe, and Mel, and the whole team for the work that you're doing to try to help us here in Florida to do the things that we need to do to protect our water. Thank you.
Our pleasure. Again, thank you for being here. Everybody who's listening, thank you. We'll catch you next time on our next episode of Clean Water Casting. Everybody have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.